as you know, we're doing a study exploring attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And just before the class, I was thinking about, I said, well, I need to tell the class make a very important point. Because some of you might ask, or probably none of you is asking the question, but the question may arise somewhere or somehow. You may ask, well, as it relates to the course Caribbean Thought and what we are contending for this semester, because I've taught this class several times. And every single time I teach the class, I actually, my approach is always a little bit different. If you were to look at what Gibbs last semester or the semester before that, it's a little, some of the topics I cover in those semesters is different here. I mean, this particular semester, I believe I'm honing in on Haiti, because Haiti as a case study when studying the Caribbean. Say, for example, the book that I wrote, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance, which was reviewed as an erudite analysis of Jamaica's economic history. But I say to people, to the reviewers got it a bit wrong, because first of all, it's two books in one. The first part is really an economic analysis, looking at the global South as against the global North. And of course, when we talk about the global South and the global North, by now you should know what we're talking about. Post-industrial countries. When we talk about the global North, and in terms of the global South, we're talking about developing countries, emerging economies, including countries in the Caribbean. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the global South. Formerly, it was called Third World, but we're moving language, as I said, is very important. So we're moving beyond that. But the book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, so looks at the dynamics that are at play between the global South and the global North. We talk about income inequality and poverty, which is we talk about the position of the Caribbean in the book, Neoliberalism, the position of the Caribbean, the economic position. But it started with an hypothesis. If globalization is supposed to be the sine qua non, the ideal of economic development, because it was once taught by many economists, W. Rostow and many others, who believe that economies follow a particular path. For some, it's linear. Whatever the case is, there are stages towards development. And so if there are stages towards development, the progressive idea as you get to the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, was globalization. And especially in the late 80s and 90s, we talk about multinationals and transnationals and the large corporation, and especially extending from post-industrial countries, penetrating into global South market, which has also, created, which results in high levels of income inequality and poverty. So the book, one of the most interesting thing about my book, or the book that I wrote, which was a study that was conducted at the University of Pennsylvania, part of my thesis, was not just to look at the strategies that have created the position in the Caribbean. And I say to you, we talk about this, the reviewers say it's an erudite analysis of Jamaica's economic history, but Jamaica is a case study. Jamaica offers a case study of what is happening in the Caribbean, and we won't have time to delve into it this week, but next week, we're coming to the end of the semester, but next week I'll have you watch Life and Death. I'll have you watch Life and Death. And Life and Death is a film by Stephanie Black. But the film is a documentary film, which is quite powerful and impacting. When you watch it, it's quite powerful. And documentary films are quite revolutionary, especially because they tell the story they use a particular kind of filmmaking and tools to make these kind of films. but it tells the story of what is happening in the Caribbean, how globalization has affected Jamaica. But the movie or the documentary film is appealing to a particular audience. The audience that they're appealing to is the tourists who travel to the North Coast. When they come to Jamaica, they only see paradise. And the movie looks at, and then the movie uses a lot of juxtapositions and pieces together deliberately, in a deliberate way, to show who are the people in the par that in the on the North Coast, okay, on the beaches, the beautiful beaches and so on. What are the tourists doing who are usually Anglo-Saxons? As against what are the locals doing? They're always working. Okay. So of course it's put it then you then start to question your independence. Okay. Here and the position of the Caribbean people and their ability to enjoy what the tourists are enjoying. And of course, and then the video takes you to where the to where the tourists are, and then it takes you to the local communities and them fighting and struggling for survival. It's quite powerful. But that particular film is based on a book written by Jamaica Kincaid about Antigua and how globalization or neoliberal globalization, a kind of globalization that is influenced by capitalism, a capitalistic strategy. And Ramesh Ramsawan from University of West Indies, Trinidad, wrote a book about structural adjustment. And when we get next week, the last two classes, I hope we have two classes left, will be the wrapping up class, where we'll look at the film Life and Death, and I will complete the time list, and looking at people like Ramsawan, Walter Rodney, so on and so forth, a little bit more, but defining structural adjustment. But he defines structural adjustment as a political ideology with an ulterior motive. Structural adjustment involving IMF and the World Bank, where in the 1970s, because of the oil crisis in the 1970s, I think they had reduced oil production and so, which drove up the prices. And as a result, many Caribbean countries and developing countries or global South countries never had money. So now they had to go to the IMF and the World Bank. They created those banks as a result of this, but also as a result of creating globalization, because the Caribbean now had to go to the IMF and the World Bank, ask for loans, and the money were tied to structural adjustment, some conditionalities. That's okay. A condition that says you have to open up your economy, you have to deunionize, you have to reduce you have to devalue your dollar, your currency, so on and so forth, so as to allow for penetration and for their transnationals in the US and post-industrial countries to be able to penetrate these markets, which also helps to create the dynamics of the global North and the global South. So anyway, so the Jamaica provides a case study, in a sense, of what pertains in the Caribbean and the strategy of penetration, the strategy. And we said that, of course, the book is an hypothesis that says if globalization is supposed to be the sine qua non of development and growth, then the Caribbean over the last 30, 40, 50 years should have experienced growth and development. Okay, and so the book looks at that. But then the book looks at the application of these strategies, the deunionization strategies. Of course, part of the plan was that the government of Jamaica and many other Caribbean countries, they have to limit the amount, how much money they spend on education, how much money they spend on, they invest or in their local manufacturers, how much money they spend on development, and so on and so forth. So part of that was to limit. So the Jamaican government hands were tied. Michael Manley talks about that in the film Life and Death. When we look at it next week. So that was part of the strategy. So those the conditionality. So they said they applied these conditions to the loan, which ultimately helped to trap the Caribbean. So Ramsawan and many Caribbean. Many social scientists in the Caribbean suggest that this was a plan, this was a strategy, it which was bathed or baptized in some good, um, in a sense. So there was some kind of ulterior motive, because according to Ramesh Wansawan, structural adjustment ultimately meant this: transferring decision making from the global south to the global north. That's what structural adjustment meant, in a sense, okay, and made these countries independent capitalist countries. And so that's part of, so it's quite interesting. So that's part one of the book. Part two of the book look at resistance, look at how effective is the resistance movement. If we talk about what pertains in the Caribbean today, that we have become that over the last 40, 50 years, globalization hasn't really helped the Caribbean in a sense. It has created more, it has exacerbated income inequality, and it has created instability in their economic growth, more poverty, so on and so forth. But in a sense, I mean, they have fluctuated. Poverty sometimes high, sometimes low. But part two of the book looks at, okay, fine, what has been the response to neoliberal globalization, or to unfair competition behind globalization, which has only helped to increase the dominance that post-industrial countries have always had over their former colonies, which are now independent nations trying to develop prosperity. And we talk about the global justice movement. We talk, of course, but we begin with looking at Marcus Garvey and the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. Look at the resistance movement all the way up, and we talk about, of course, part of globally. You know, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s in the Caribbean, there was this rise in terms of unions. BITU started in the 1940s, Bustamante Industrial Trade Union. PNP had their union as well. In the Caribbean, so unions were strong and growing, and many of the unions turned into political parties. But of course, as we get to the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, in terms of with structural adjustment and with all of these loans being tied to conditions, part of the condition of the loan was that you can't have unions, or you need to deunionize. Okay, so already, as you speed towards, as you look at the Caribbean, you talk about the Caribbean, what has been, how, so with all we call these countervailance within the system, because the system creates a way to prevent protestations, to prevent any challenge to their dominance or to the strategies that they have implemented. So, for example, loans. So part two of the book looks at resistance, or how effective is the resistance movement, or the challenge to unfair competition, and so on and so forth. And so we talk about that, and we compare Marcus Garvey to Padmore, and we talk about the civil rights movement, and of course we question whether or not we really have independence. Especially, first of all, if you talk about independence granted, then are you independence that is granted? That means whoever grants you the independence is that continues to hold that over you. But whatever the case is, the book look at that. And part of the point I am trying to make here is, when you look at this class, Caribbean thought, part of Caribbean, we've spent much of the class talking about Afro-Caribbean beliefs. We did skip 2 classes, but we spent a lot of time talking about Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And you might say, well, why are we spending so much time talking about Afro-Caribbean beliefs? And and one of the things that came to my mind was the fact that, one, the Caribbean, we talk about the Caribbean being invented. Norman, Dervin, and Brian Meeks in the Caribbean Reader, they talk about the Caribbean being an invention being an invention, and what are we gonna reinvent ourselves to be, so on and so forth. Rex Nesselford talks about our identity. what we want to be, what we hope to be, and who we are made to be. And he talks about the external as against the internal. And Frantz Fanon talked about the issue of identity in his book Black Skins, White Masks. And in that book, he talks about colonization being the depersonalization of the human. And so when you talk about, if that is colonization, so to decolonize is to rediscover the human by revisiting history and challenging that history critically. So when you study Caribbean, when you start to study Caribbean thinking, and Caribbean thought is looking at diverse currents that have come to create our identity today. Part of that is that the colonial past, the colonial experience, which we have inherited. We have inherited a colonial past. Part of that inheritance is shrouded in discrimination, inhumanity, so on and so forth. Part of that inherited past that we hold on to, part of our identity, stems from theological understanding, which is Eurocentric, theological understanding of so faith and faith traditions have played a very significant role in, and of course, part of colonization was also to Christianize. Okay, part of colonization involved an evangelistic or missionary aspect, in a sense. Columbus was also seen as a missionary in a sense, but part of the role was also to Christianize the slaves who were said they don't have religion, or if they do have religion, it's not really religion, it's something cannibalistic, animalistic, evil. And in 1898, of course, or in the late 1800s, some African traditions were banned. But part of our understanding of life, part of our thinking, we talk about diverse currents in the Caribbean, but part of the currents of the Caribbean, part of the thinking, what has shaped our thinking, of course, is the theology and much of our theology has been inherited. And so if we are going to be looking at diverse currents, we have to look at the theology, but not just theology today, but theology yesterday, and how and what, and the history that has led to or created our experiences today and our attitudes and our thinking. All of that. Of course, why we have reggae, Rastafarianism, which was started in the 1930s, was a response to a rejection of Christianity, a rejection to the status quo, and in a sense, of course. But we're gonna talk a little bit about, if we have time. I think it's 4:30. Our guest will join the class at 5:30. Our guest will join the class at 5:30 today. So.
Sorry, that's 5:30 your time or our time? Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Sorry. Yeah. Wait. An hour from now.
Okay.
God, what time is it in Jamaica now?
It's 3:25.
Oh, okay. So, and it's 4:25 here. So yeah, he's gonna join me at 4:30. So I'm looking forward to it. You guys, I'm looking forward to that class. So, but before we begin, before I continue, looking at exploring attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. Of course, when the gentleman comes, when Father Hybrid comes, he will talk about exploring Afro-Caribbean beliefs, and voodoo and so on and so forth. We will, but hopefully at around 15 minutes to 5, I will delve into Afro-Caribbean beliefs a little bit, and in the research and so on and so forth. But before I do that, part of this class, as I said to you, and if you read the syllabus, I give credit. And by the way, I did the exam. The exam is ready. You guys you will all pass the exam. It's gonna be easy. It's good when you teach a class over and over and over again. And I've looked at other exams and I'm like, oh my God, what a long exam. This exam was long. Oh, it's too much. So I cut it down significantly. You won't have much to do. And we are going to go over some things. The last class, as I prepare you for the exam, which is going to be easy. But part of this class is I give credit when students, if you were to write a paper, publish an article. If you were to publish an article, you get a credit. And part of Caribbean thought, part of this class is to also to engage in discussions or dialogue of the as it responding to current events or issues of the day. So whatever is happening in society, I believe we also have a responsibility as a class to engage that, to put our academic reflections into practice by responding and facilitating discussions. And I think so. But what we've always done is I've always invited you to public. Is there anything happening right now that you guys want to comment on? And I will probably, but I won't allow you guys to comment right now. I'm going to share an issue. There are some major issues happening in the world today. One is immigration. Immigration is a big issue. Brain drain is a big issue in the Caribbean, in Jamaica. And I've said that brain drain is there is a positive side to brain drain, but there's also a negative side to brain drain. And of course, when you start to study remittances and how remittances play a very important role in terms of the GDP of gross national income in Jamaica, especially it contributing to foreign exchange and so on and so forth. So remittances is very important. So immigration is a very important issue that we have to tackle, and that's a big issue in the Caribbean, a big issue in the Americas. And so we have to talk about. I want to touch on immigration a little bit, and share an article that I wrote. I know some of you are also doing social work, and part of this class, as I said to you, is facilitating thinking and critical thinking as it relates to Caribbean issues, Caribbean practices, tradition. And so one of the things I want to talk about, I want to share an article with you guys that I wrote, looking at childhood or psychosocial development. And I want to probably talk about it in 5 minutes with you guys to find out what pertains in Jamaica and the Caribbean, particularly Jamaica, as I talk about, because there are serious issues here in the US, in diasporan communities and in non-diasporan communities of Caribbean pedigree. But even in Jamaica and the Caribbean, there are serious issues that we have to address. Part of that stems from psychosocial development. There are serious criminality, or those committing crimes, perpetrators of crimes, or crime and violence. The perpetrator, when you start to study those who are committing crime and violence, when you study the ages of the people committing crime today, it's getting young. They're getting younger and younger. It's not the 40-year-old or the 30-year-olds. Now it's also and more so the teenagers. A lot of teenagers increasingly are responsible for a lot of the crime and violence happening in societies today. And in the US, especially in Black and brown communities. And so the question is, how can we deal with that as a society? And I believe that we have to have the discussion that what pertains in the Caribbean. And I think some time ago when I asked the students why you guys come to Caribbean Thought, why are you in this class? What do you hope to get out of this class? I think there was one particular student had indicated that um, one of the things that they hope to get out of the class is to develop an approach to the practice of social work. And part of that, and I've said to the student, part of that is to explore our traditions, okay? But not just the traditions, our norms, and our attitudes, not just towards our religious attitudes and so on, but in terms of how the family is organized, not just how the family was organized, but also looking at socialization and how that socialization is tied to a philosophy of childhood and adolescent development into adulthood. We're talking about here psychosocial development. Of course, Frantz Fanon talks about psychosocial development of the human, especially Black and brown people or the colonized man. So you guys can read Black Skin, White Mask or The Wretched of the Earth. He does a very good job talking about, in a sense, dissecting the mind of the colonized or the post-colonial. So therefore, how do you frame your social work? And of course, we're talking about Obia some time ago, and just so you know, the revivalists, which is a denomination in Jamaica, part of their practice, they practice a form of Obia. You might have people who you will teach or who you will come across as social workers or professionals or pastors or teachers or guidance counselors, whatever the case is, who are from a revivalist tradition. So how do you treat with that? And so therefore, and I said to you, so this class is important because it helps us to consider various aspects of our culture, and to develop an understanding that a lot of our culture is mixed in with not just European, but people who are still holding on to their African traditions, many of which include some practices which challenge our European understanding of how we view life. So of course, I say to you today that, so therefore, how do you practice your social work to the student or to the individual who embrace Obia or embrace African traditions or is a revivalist? Of course, as I said to you, when I was younger, we walked across, if I'm passing a home that seemed to be like a revivalist home or African traditions, we would cross the street or we'd run away from those persons. Of course, it breeds discrimination, of course. So this particular class is very important to consider that. So I'm going to share 2 articles that I wrote recently in response, and which is something I hope for you guys to develop. My ultimate goal when we end this class at the end of the course is not for you to pass the exam, which I'm sure you guys will pass the exam. I appreciate the discussions we're having in the class. You guys are higher level, and that's great. I know you guys are concerned about assignments and stuff. Don't be too concerned about that. I mean, you just have 2 things that I've asked you to do, which was to trace your heritage and a reflection of one of the classes so far that you've done. That's the only 2 things I've asked you to do. Probably the last thing I'm going to probably ask you to do. Oh, you guys were supposed to send in a proposal, which is really part of your final assignment, because when you part of your final assignment. Submit a proposal of a research of the same research we're doing, and I'm saying to you, you could look, if you go to my research gate, you can look at the proposal that I have and you could mirror that, but make it specific to a particular area that you are going to be studying as it relates to exploring the changing attitudes to Afro-Caribbean beliefs among the people in your community, among your church, or whatever the case is. Interview 10 people or 15 people. And then and so therefore you could say, okay, this is my, and you could just say the only thing that's going to be different in your proposal than the one that I have on ResearchGate is the one. It's specific, not necessarily just to Jamaica. It's going to be specific to the people you are interested in. So it's the same question. Everything is the same thing, except the demographics and so on. In terms of areas, because you are going to be, well, I mean, everything could be the same. It's just, but majority of the people is going to be specific to your area, to 10 people in your area, community, or whatever the case is, or church, community, whatever it is. Or it could be among JTS or student unions, or whatever the case is. Yes, Alisa.
So I'm wondering with that, since some of us probably would know persons also living overseas of Jamaican parentage.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Them to get their perspective as well, to see how it differs from our own.
Definitely, sorry, yes. Oh my God, that would be great. So if you're Jamaican or live in diaspora, yes, definitely.
Okay.
So because I am doing research, I'm interviewing people here in the US who are who live here in the US who are from Jamaica. So that's great. That's good. Yes, definitely. I am not being too stern or strict on you guys this semester. I provided a lot more latitude, which is great. Because learning should be more flexible as we live in the 21st century with a lot. You guys have access to all the tools and the technology. Okay. So of course, so what I've done is that some of you may not have submitted the assignment. I'm not going to deduct any points or whatever. I'm going to give you time to do that. And if you're still working on your proposal, fine, submit the proposal. But the final paper will have the proposal and I guess the proposal that you had submitted and with the research questionnaire at the back and your findings. So that's it. Which if you submit your final paper with the research proposal and you didn't get it and you did not submit it during the semester, if you have it attached to your final paper, then you'll get the grade for both the midterm submission, which is part of the end of which is part of your final paper. So I don't think so you guys don't really have nothing else to submit. The only three pieces is to trace your heritage, to do a reflection on one of the classes or all the classes so far, and the midterm to submit a midterm the midterm paper, which was a proposal, probably 2 pages or 3 pages, proposal of the research you're doing, which is very easy. Okay.
Sir?
Yes, Renee.
Excuse me, good evening. There's a sir that is due on the 24th of April. Is it you're referring to when you say proposal?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
When how many more classes do we have? Do we have 2 more classes? I can't recall how many more classes we have.
3.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, we have okay, so that's enough time for me to do the have you guys watch the film Life and Death. It's very important that I have you guys watch that too, and then wrap up with those 2 lectures which I already have prepared for you. But I already have. If I can't finish, I'll send you the document. So I think we have enough time, so that's good. So I'm going to share 2 articles, which I wrote. And so the point I was making anyways is the point that so I want you guys to develop the attitude to start writing and by blogging, doing podcasts, or start having dialogue and discussions. That is how but in a very critical way, in a very academic way. Yes, it's very important. And in a very critical way, start writing and letters and submitting it to the Gleaner, or to a blog, or to the Star or the Observer, or if you have a church newsletter, right? Or probably create a church newsletter or a church news blog or a podcast where you start having discussions. I think discussions are very important, and then you frame it in a very critical way, because that's when people start to understand people even more, how people think. Because as much as we are the same, we're different, and it's great that we start to Barack Obama says we have to start having the conversation in communities. and having dialogue, not allowing others to have the conversation for us. Because when you allow others to have the conversation, if you say, for example, if I said, if you are apolitical, just so you know, the decisions that politicians make affect you, but yet you are apolitical. And so it's very important for you not just to vote, but for also for you to have the conversations and write and do your research. I'm doing a podcast special looking at support for either Trump or Biden among Black and brown people in Black and brown communities, particularly, say, for example, Philadelphia. We did one in Philadelphia, and we did one in New York. We released the one in Philadelphia. I'm about to release the one in New York. We're working on that. They did one in Chicago. We didn't do that one. Another group did Chicago. But and what we are finding is that, you know, many persons are unaware or uninformed or misinformed about what is happening in society. Say, for example, you know, and what the candidates represent and what voting for the candidate mean, and so on and so forth. Just wrong ideas. And but you know, but I said it's very important for us to start having the conversation. You talk about, look what's going on in Russia, and how the government deliberately and systematically and strategically misinform or corrupt the news so that they can justify certain heinous actions that they're taking all over the world. And so at the end of the day, when people talk about Russia, they say Russia is bad. Not Putin. Russia is bad. Russia is, the Russians aren't really good people. They're evil people. They are invading Ukraine, and so on and so forth. Russia, so, you know, Russia bears the name. Germans, not all Germans were Nazis, but I said to you, we have a responsibility to hold our government responsible. And part of doing that is becoming more informed. The Bible talks about because of a lack of knowledge, the people perish. And so even if, as church members have a responsibility to not just rely on the pastor. Because of course, when you study church history, when you study what differentiates Catholicism from Protestantism, is this very important catechism, or sacrament. The sacrament. Of course, but they don't have all the sacraments. The Protestant churches don't have all the sacraments that the Catholics have. Okay, but what differentiates Catholicism from Protestantism, and part of the Reformation of the church, which was the idea that was this idea and this philosophy, the priesthood of all believers. The priesthood of all believers. The belief that it's not just the Pope it's not just the Pope. The Pope is not it's not just the Pope that represent God. We all represent God in a sense. It's not just the Pope that can go to God or pray to God, or okay. So in a sense, you know, the Father blesses you. We don't have to go to the Pope to seek blessing. Okay, we go to God ourselves, especially because of grace, our idea of grace, our idea of salvation, so on and so forth. So you find that, so the church, the breakaway so you find that the Protestant churches, so we differ in terms of that particular sacrament and the idea of the priesthood of all believers, and so on and so forth. So that's a very important point I'm making here. So it's very important for us even to facilitate discussions, because it is by having discussions and writing and engaging each other every day, not just yesterday, but even today, we have to continue the conversation, because it will lead to new thinking, or it would lead to a kind of freedom which we have, which is what creates all the denominations that we have today, because of the philosophies and the thinking and the conversation. So this is very important. So I want to share an article that I wrote, and as it relates to what's going on in society today. It's called Unfair Competitive Practices, the Root Cause of Immigration Crisis. Because immigration is a sore issue, and it is an article written by yours truly. And it was published in the NeoLiberal journals, dated April 3, 2024, just recently. And I submitted it to the Jamaica Gleaner for them to publish it as well, and the Jacobin magazine here in the US. But the article begins like this. It says, the global immigration crisis is not a sudden phenomenon, but rather a consequence of a long history of unfair competitive practices that have exacerbated disparities and income inequalities among nations. Let me say this again. The global immigration, that's why this class is very important. This class is important, and when you read neoliberalism, I talk about the competitive economic practices, or we talk about strategy. But the global immigration crisis that we have, especially at the US-Mexico border, which many Jamaicans are also using, just so you know. Many Jamaicans are using that US-Mexico border crossing into the US. Countries all over the Americas crossing into the US, which the US is probably having, which is becoming a political issue here in the US. But immigration is a very important issue, and actually my mic is on. Let me open this. I'm going to make a very important point. When you study, I talk about looking at the dynamics. Life is about people and how people relate. When you study Caribbean thought, when you study society, you study in whose interest a society is constructed, or who is in whose interests. We said that life is about people and how people relate. And when you start to study, we do Caribbean thought, you look at diverse thinking, but part of that thinking comes from an inherited past, which continues to define Caribbean today in terms of how we view ourselves and how we view others and treat others. Not only that, in terms of our economic position today as dependent capitalist societies or emerging economies, which are still grappling with our vulnerability and grappling with inconsistent growth. But the point I'm making here is, so I said, it's very important to, when you start to look at the position of the Caribbean in relation, the global South in relation to the global North, you can study immigration policies. And when you study immigration policies, it gives you an understanding in terms of where the Caribbean is today. You look at and how the Caribbean is treated and how Black and brown peoples are treated in the world today. If you look at immigration policy in post-industrial countries towards Europeans or post-industrial countries, other post-industrial countries, or countries that are predominantly, that have a predominant particular racial makeup of white. The immigration policy favors people from those countries. You look at the immigration policy towards the Caribbean and those countries that have a majority of Black and brown people, it's very draconian in terms of the conversation. The language is draconian. Not only that, if you look at not only that, but in terms of the socioeconomics of people, the immigration policy is one that favors people who are connected, people who have ties, people who have businesses and wealth and so on, and can contribute. So we talk about extraction, how these countries, so many global South countries are dealing with, we said that word, the negative side of brain drain, is where many of the best and the brightest people are leaving these countries and going to the global north. While at the same time, these countries are being penetrated. In order to export to the US or to post-industrial countries, it's not, you have to meet all these standards, which is very difficult to meet, especially when these, so it's quite an interesting issue when you start to study what pertains economically. But when you study immigration, not only that, when you look at immigration from the global south to the global north, as against immigration from the global north and to the global south, and the people who are considered illegal immigrants, majority of them are Black and brown people, or most of them many of them are poor. They said that, okay, in a sense, it is very difficult from the people from the global south to go to the global north, especially if you're not connected and if you don't have any ties. And not only that, but international competition among countries have impoverished or made many of these developing countries uncompetitive. Okay, to the point which exacerbate some of the socioeconomic realities in many of these countries, which is forcing many people to want to leave. Yet, it is such a dilemma. It's as if you're caught between a rock and a hard place. It is the plan, it is the intention to make these countries, people from the global south, countries of the global south, or countries that are Black and brown people, to make these countries poor or poorer or not very competitive, and make these people dependent on cheap labor, so on and so forth. While at the same time, the immigration policy is draconian. And the people who are forcing their way into post-industrial countries illegally are people whose socioeconomic realities in the global south is, well, they make up probably some of the poorest people or some of the people who are struggling economically. And it's quite interesting. So when you start to, and the way in which immigration works, when you look at the global south to the global north and who travels from the global south and the word, and majority, when you look at immigration from between global north countries or post-industrial countries, it's always the idea of legality. But from the global south to the global north, there is this idea of legality. But the global immigration crisis that many countries have today is not a sudden phenomenon. So I'm saying to you, it's not sudden, but rather a consequence of a long history of unfair competitive practices. And I said to you earlier, when you read Ramesh Ramsawan, his book Structural Adjustment, he talks about structural adjustment was really was the idea behind it was to transfer decision making from the global south to the global north. That is part of the phenomenon that's what they're talking about. That's part of the long history of unfair competitive practices we're talking about that have exacerbated disparities and income inequalities among nations, that have created global immigration crisis today, where especially people of a particular pedigree, socioeconomic status in many of the global south countries are forcing their way into the US, especially through illegal means because of a strict policy that limit certain people from certain places and people of certain pedigree to come to these countries. Post-industrial countries, particularly the United States, the UK, Canada, France, Germany, have wielded their economic power to maintain dominance often at the expense of developing nations. Now, throughout history, post-industrial nations, throughout history, the history that we are contending for, the history that we are revisiting in this class, because that is how we are able to arrive at that, through critical thinking and revisiting history. Throughout history, post-industrial nations have exploited other nations. And that is a fact. When you watch the film Life and Death, we will talk about that and what we've talked about. And they've exploited it also through colonization. Okay. Through embargoes, through debt. And we talk about some of the ways that many of these post-industrial countries or former colonial masters continue their dominance is through what? Debt. Like what France applied to Haiti after they got independence in 1804. They said, okay, fine. Nobody recognized the independence. So France said, you have to pay millions and millions. At that time, it was about billions of dollars. Millions of that Haiti never had the money to pay. So what they had to do was develop a payment arrangement. So they were still beholden to France in a sense until I think the 1940s. I believe they finally paid it, or through structural adjustment, lending monies to the Caribbean countries and applying conditionalities. Okay, which the conditions that they applied to the loans made them underdeveloped, dependent capitalist countries, which forever prevented them from ever making the payments. So now that created a debt crisis for many of these countries, which ultimately held them down, or through embargoes, which they applied to Venezuela or Cuba, or maybe through the CIA or other operatives working incognito in some of these countries, like what happened in Grenada in the 1980s with Bishop, or what happened in Togo in the 1980s. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, Renata. I'm stepping away out of Wi-Fi zone for a bit, so I may drop for a little bit.
Okay.
Yes,
but this
sir.
class, we're recording, so if you don't have everything, whatever you don't get now, you can get.
Okay, I'll be back shortly though.
Okay, good. But
Yes.
okay, so very important point. So throughout history, post-industrial nations have exploited other countries, extracting wealth and resources while leaving behind populations trapped in poverty. Now, this strategy has been driven by a desire to preserve competitive advantages and uphold economic dominance. Consequently, countries like Mexico, Venezuela, Hispaniola is not a country. Hispaniola, it actually has two countries. It's a land with two countries, island mass with two countries, Haiti and Dominican Republic. And those in the Caribbean have been strategically kept at a disadvantage to prevent them from rivaling the wealth and influence of more developed nations. I'm not the only, and just so you know, it's not rumor, what I'm saying to you now. Okay, it's not unacademic, because I'm not the only person who have arrived at that conclusion. There are several other theorists that we have contended, and again, if you read Nelson, the origins of the origins of democratic socialism in Jamaica. Okay, and in fact, the origins of democratic socialism in Jamaica was a response to the history that I'm referring to here, right here, in terms of post-industrial nations exploiting other countries, extracting wealth and resources, so on and so forth. Rameshwan Wamsawan, okay, which is what Frantz Fanon is talking about. So this is, I'm not talking about, and there are many others, and I have all these books here which speaks to the, and this is something that we've studied, what we're studying in this class. So it's not hearsay or rumor. For instance, if a country like Jamaica, were to experience significant growth and development, attracting higher wages, listen to the point, follow the point here, very important. If a country like Jamaica were to experience significant growth and development, attracting higher wages, and reducing the availability of cheap labor, it would disrupt the economic balance that benefits the US and many post-industrial countries and capitalists who rely on the cheap labor. Capitalism is about what? If I were to, what's capitalism? It's about profit. If you were to study economics, what is economics? Economics studies the allocation of resources. Well, I mean, that was the thinking though. That was the thinking. When you study economics, economics is about the allocation of scarce resources among unlimited wants and desires. The problem with this is the unlimited wants and desires, and the issue that some people privilege themselves, and the issue of class and categories in society, where some people put value on certain things and monopolize the things and the value so that they gain most of the limited resources that's allocated in society. So now you have high levels of income inequality. Certain people that occupy certain places in society or have certain things will make more money than other people because of the philosophy that we put in terms of how we value things. And the philosophy that we put is based in human nature of selfishness and greed. So therefore, okay, so economics is about the allocation of scarce resources among unlimited wants and desires. But the economics that we have, the kind of economic will determine how we allocate the resources. And we talk about the capitalists own much of the factors of production. Now, how they arrive at this ownership, according to Adam Smith, was because of hard work. But of course, Karl Marx said that's a lie in his Das Kapital. Okay, when he revisited history, said, no, that's a lie. Okay, because he said that the accumulation of capital in capitalist societies and emerging industrial societies is a result of theft and violence. And of course, then when you start to study that, you realize, well, there's much truth to that. When you start to look at serfdom and what pertains and colonization and so on and so forth, and what continues even today, and what happened in globalization, and the strategy behind globalization and the international arrangements that went behind globalization, that help to continue the advantages that many countries have over others. So that's a very important point. And Karl Marx challenges Adam Smith. So therefore, of course, the second book in the neoliberalism book series looks at neo-capitalism and the death of nations, because I said neo-capital, because the capitalism that we have today, even today, and the capitalism that we are supposed to have is not one that is based on competition, that is fear. I am for competition, but it has to be fair, but it is not fair. And there are ulterior motives behind many of the strategies and the arrangement and the policies, especially with the WTO and the IMF and many of the international organizations, and who dominate. Say, for example, the South African Prime Minister talked about, Prime Minister P.J. Patterson said one time in the 1990s, the law is not a shackle. When you look at the Security Council and United Nations, they are, and how they how did they respond to Israel invading Palestine, as against how how they respond to Russia invading Ukraine, you know, and talk about sovereignty and the rule of law, so on and so forth. So it's quite interesting. So I said, if a country like Jamaica were to experience significant, and anyway, I'm making a point about, so economics is about the allocation of resources. And there are those who make it their business to create a system that continues their advantages based on the philosophy of, the philosophy behind capitalism. Of course, they say that economics, the philosophy of economics that's applied. Of course, we say that capitalism is about, I mean, Adam Smith that said that the reason why some economies have wealth and so on and so forth because of hard work. But I said to you, that's a facade, because the people who worked the hardest, the slaves who worked and helped to build these economies, many of them weren't paid. Many of them are still divorced from the riches of their labor. And I said to you, if you study some societies, they have certain codes and certain, and if Walter Litt from the University of Penn that looked at the economic labor of the US, he talked about how in these post-industrial societies, how they created connections, connectionism. They created systems and education and licenses to protect certain industries, professionals. So you want to keep out people from coming into a particular industry to protect wealth and so on. So they created certain licenses. They create certain labor unions, or they create, I'm not against unions. They create some unions are like that. They create certain connections. We talk about connectionism, or credentialism is connected with credentialism. Okay, you have to pass certain exam, and then they make it much more difficult for you to get into a particular profession because they're trying to protect certain wealth. Yeah, very important point I'm making here. Okay, and so throughout history, post-industrial nations have exploited other nations, extracting their wealth. So I said, for instance, so we say that capitalism is about profit. Capitalism is about profit, and capital goes wherever it can maximize and make the most profit, and supernormal profit. And the multinational and transnational companies were created as a result of capital trying to maximize its gains. And so globalization created an opportunity for many post-industrial countries' corporation to expand and penetrate into other markets, especially in the global south. Capital travel, okay, especially with policies now that makes it easier for them to go. So capital goes wherever it can maximize, and what it does, and one of the things that capital does is that it always tries to minimize its costs. And the first cost that it tries to minimize is always labor. So I say to you, if for instance, if a country like Jamaica were to experience significant growth and development, attracting higher wages and reducing the availability of cheap labor, it would disrupt the economic balance that benefits the US and the capitalists and the multinationals and so on and so forth. You see the point I'm making, guys? Quite powerful. It is not in the US, Canada, Germany, and these post-industrial countries, it is not in their interests for many of these global south countries and Venezuela and Cuba and all these countries to do very well or to become like a Singapore. It's not in their interest, because now they will have to compete and they won't benefit from cheap labor. They will now have to rely on the labor in the US, and the labor cost is high in this country. So in a sense, illegal immigration was also beneficial. In one sense, it's beneficial because illegal immigrants coming here, they drive down wages. And right now, wages were going up in the US. So in a sense, they're making the illegal immigration a political issue, but in a sense, it's an economic issue as well, because many capitalists are for illegal immigration. Because with all these migrants coming into the US, it will help. What it does, it creates an opportunity, and it also drives down labor costs or wages. But if Jamaica is doing well and Mexico is doing well and the peoples are doing well, then there won't be a need for Jamaicans to come to and for the global south to people to come here illegally. They'll only come for vacation. And they'll and not only and capital won't benefit from the cheap labor that's available inside Jamaica, Mexico, or inside the US if illegal immigrants aren't coming to the US or to the post-industrial country. So illegal immigration is in one sense a crisis, but that's created by unfair competition and what goes on economically in the world today. It cannot be divorced from the economic context. So consequently, policies have been designed to perpetuate dependency and prevent the rise of competing economies in the global south. This is a profound point. It is the point I am making in book 2 of Neoliberalism, Neoliberal Globalization, Reconsidered, New Capitalism and the Death of Nations. The death of nations. So when we talk about the death of nations, this is what I'm talking about, the death of nations. Neo-capitalism is not about capitalism. Capitalism is about, maybe it's about hard work. And the middle class was growing in one sense, but maybe it's about hard work. But capitalism is not about hard work today. What we have is neo-capitalism, or we call a kind of neoliberal capitalism, a kind of neoliberalism, a kind of Pharisicalism, a kind of nepotism and connectionism. Do as I say, but not as I do. That's the kind of capitalism that we have that drives and that was the thrust behind all of these international arrangements, so on and so forth. The WTO was, when they created WTO, that was perfect, because you know what? WTO helped to end the preferential banana, the preferential agreement that many post-colonial, post-independent countries in the global south, in the West Indies had with the UK, ended as a result of the WTO. Because the US, under Bill Clinton, appealed to the WTO for saying that, that's unfair trading practices. You see what I'm talking about? Unfair. So they created some rules. But it's a strategy. Because where is the Caribbean starting from? What stage of development are they starting from? The preferential treatment benefited the Caribbean, and they needed that to help them to come into the world economy and toward their development. But so many Caribbean countries in the 90s, after 1992, and not only, and let me tell you why it was in the US interest for them to end the preferential treatment between the Caribbean, because NAFTA they started NAFTA in the 1990s. What's NAFTA? North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, US, and Mexico. And the Chiquita banana was in Mexico, and they wanted to dominate the market. And many investors invested in Chiquita banana in the US. And that was part of the North American Free Trade Agreement. So Mexico wanted to dominate. And so part of the agreement between Mexico and the US and with NAFTA and so on was, now they have banana, they want to dominate. And so the preferential treatment that the UK had with the Caribbean was an obstacle in the kind of dominance that they wanted. And so the WTO was provided a useful opportunity, a great way, a strategy for them to end that, because they said, it didn't apply to any rule. But you see what I'm talking about? China, say for example, China, they created the some Paris Accord that limits greenhouse emissions. Okay, and so when they created that, they were pressuring some countries to achieve a certain level of emission, because so when you certain industries and so on and so forth, manufacturing, it helps it releases certain gases and smokes that damage the ozone layer, and so they wanted countries over the world to limit that, and so many countries signed the Paris Accord, but China for years refused to join that accord and broke all the rules. And in fact, part of China's argument was that for years we were developing and we were behind. You cannot expect us to agree to a certain level that you guys can achieve, because you guys don't require the kind of industries now, because now they're moving towards information technology and so on, and you guys, so and you guys have attained a certain level of development, but we are still in the middle stages, or we are not there yet. So you cannot expect us to ascribe to agree to something that it's easier for you guys to attain, but it's harder for us to attain based on where we are. That should have been part of the conversation in the Caribbean as well. We talk about globalization and the WTO and the IMF and so on and so forth, and certain agreements. Say, for example, part of the agreement between the Caribbean and part of the agreement between countries of the global south, when they went to the IMF asking for money, they said the agreement was that, okay, you cannot invest or subsidize. You can't subsidize in milk. You can't subsidize your milk farmers and so on and so forth. And in the 1990s, what happened is that because of that, and many Caribbean milk farmers and producers could not compete with imported milk. Okay, the subsidies were helping. So because they had to remove, the government had to remove the subsidies. So as a result, it killed the milk industry. That is, so you don't think that the Caribbean is suffering from that? They had to pay a price. Killed the milk industry, killed the banana industry, all the workers, and and I was a pastor at the time I was a pastor in, when was that? In 2000. When was it I was pastoring? And there's a member of my church was talking about the banana industry and how it was really, how NAFTA and the whole Chiquita banana was created. It was really difficult for them to continue, and they had to close down their banana farm and so on. And so many of them had to, and what happened is that many of these Canada and so on, I guess they created the banana program where many people had go to work the farm in many of these countries. That was what they created, in a sense, but it's quite so, and it created, of course, more illegal immigration. So that's part of the point I'm making here, as when we talk about, say for instance, if a country like Jamaica were to experience significant growth and development, extracting high wages and reducing the availability of cheap labor, it would disrupt the economic balance that benefits the US. Consequently, policies have been designed to perpetuate dependency and prevent the rise of competing economies in the global south. Moreover, post-industrial nations have flooded global markets with their products. I alluded to that a little bit just now, undercutting local manufacturers in developing countries, which happened with the milk producers, and perpetuating a cycle of economic dependency. If these nations were to develop the capacity to compete effectively, it would threaten the profits of post-industrial countries, leading to decreased consumption of their goods. Additional, and of course, it will cut their profit margin or their bottom line. Additionally, the phenomenon of brain drain further exacerbates the disparities between nations. The best and brightest individuals from developing countries often seek opportunities in post-industrial nations, leaving behind limited means for others. This brain drain deprives developing nations of valuable human capital while enriching post-industrial economies. Okay, you see part of the, you see where I'm going with this. The issue of illegal immigration, particularly into the United States, the UK, Canada, France, to the post-industrial, is often framed as a problem of border security. Border security is often framed as a problem of border security. However, it is essential to recognize that those crossing borders illegally are often individuals driven by economic desperation, created by what? Here we go. Unfair competition and policies that favor the privileged few. Furthermore, it's important to acknowledge that illegal immigration doesn't just represent a crisis. It also presents opportunities for some Americans to exploit. Where am I going at? Let me say that again. Furthermore, it's important to acknowledge that illegal immigration doesn't just represent a crisis. It also represents opportunities for some Americans to exploit. Border agents, for instance, have been reportedly charging exorbitant sums to assist illegal migrants across the border, turning the desperation of migrants into a lucrative business opportunity. Now, while some may use political talking points to demean immigrants, it's critical to understand that the crisis is in large part a consequence of a corrupt system that benefits certain individuals at the expense of vulnerable migrants. Some people unfollowed me and unfriended me, and they're upset because of what I'm saying, but it is the truth. Let me just say this. To truly address the immigration crisis, there must be a concerted effort to rectify the structural inequalities that perpetuate poverty and drive migration. This requires a reevaluation of competitive strategies that prioritize the interests of post-industrial nations at the expense of developing countries. Now, the political will to address these issues is crucial, even if it means sacrificing some advantages currently enjoyed by post-industrial nations, which I don't know if that's possible.
Sir?
Yes.
I have a question. So I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but I'm wondering if, while what you're saying is not impossible, if it really is something that is achievable in, well, I'm focusing on America, in an America where racism is still such a thing, and where it's literally against the law.
Yes.
Teach the truth about history.
Well, look what they're doing in some countries in terms of passing laws to prevent critical thinking.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, this is all theoretical, but I completely agree with you. When I'm talking, it's gonna be hard. Go ahead.
Right. That's basically all I wanted to say, because I'm like, among their own countrymen, because at this point in time, everybody is an immigrant except for those that they have confined to reservations.
Yes.
And generations enough persons who are sons of the soil, for want of a better expression, despite where their heritage is attached to. And yet there is still this sense of superiority and inferiority and all of that going on all at once among your own countrymen. So it's like, if there is no regard for your fellow countrymen, why would they at all have any genuine or even, what's the word? Like that's the best word I can come up with, a genuine interest in the well-being of persons who are from what they would call alien nations. And I'm not saying you don't have those that care, but for me, in terms of on a grand scale, I'm like, what? America have so much problem for try to fix right about? No, it's It's feeling
Yes.
like, yeah.
I guess that's what makes the world go round. I guess that's what makes the world interesting. The world is probably a sensational movie that the gods are watching what we are making of it. But whatever the case is, in conclusion, the immigration crisis cannot be solved solely through border enforcement measures. It requires a fundamental shift in global economic policies and a commitment to promoting equitable development worldwide. Only then can we begin to address the root causes of migration and create a more just and sustainable world for all, which, as you said, Alyssa, I don't know if that is possible. Maybe it's a utopian dream. Um, as I said, I guess it's utopian. However, it's good. However, we have to continue to have the conversation and do everything we can to strive for a better world. We may not have a better world right now, but what we do is talk about it and strive towards it, put things in place, do whatever we can. That's the only way we can get better. To say that, well, it won't change. It won't change, but at least to talk about it and to do everything we can to start, it may shift the pendulum an inch closer to what we want. Okay. And the world is, well, according to some, the world is millions and billions of years old. And if you follow Darwinism, the world goes through some kind of if evolutionary process, and we are progressing, they say, from Homo, okay, from nothing to and the cell and to the Big Bang theory and blah 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 to Homo erectus and Homo sapiens and so on and so forth. So maybe it's an evolutionary process towards what we want to achieve, but or maybe we will cut, or maybe it is in maybe it is in death that we experience we experience the reality of what is supposed to be, which is utopia. Nevertheless, God did send his son according to the Christian doctrine to die for us, so that all men can be drawn unto him. And it's a process, I guess. And we talk about salvation being a process. Well, if you follow Calvinism, and the theory of the already but the not yet, the theology of the already but the not yet. Okay, this is where I will stop. So that's on immigration. And you see how all what we do in Caribbean thought, how it's important for us to begin to think about these things in serious and deliberate ways, and then begin to have conversations. I wrote this article and submitted it to the Gleaner, and it's also published. And this is some of the things I'm hoping that you guys will begin to start to do, write and think and brainstorm. I actually started doing writing, tweeting, and it turned into an article. So it's quite interesting. Now I have one more thing to discuss with you. Let me see if Father Iverson has joined us. Father Iverson hasn't joined us. So I need to take a break. And I told him to join me at 5:45 because I went over. And there's one more thing I want to talk with you about, is another article. As we talk about, I said I like to talk about, comment on issues of the day, or explore some of what's going on in society and how we can respond. One thing that I want to talk about is the erosion of childhood. The erosion of childhood, and what does that look like in the Caribbean? And but I said the erosion of childhood as a result of social media, substance use, and the crisis in psychosocial development. And I believe that societies seem to be divorced from the psychology of human development. In fact, there was one, if you guys study human development into the adult doesn't stop at 21 or 18, or some scientists or some social psychologists would say 14 or whatever, but it continues because, of course, biologists are now learning that The frontal lobe is not developed until you're 26. The frontal lobe is responsible for executive functioning. Okay, and so therefore you can't expect certain young people below who are not 26 before. Some people are advanced, but to fully operate in a professional way or make certain executive decisions or decisions that requires their executive functioning skill, when the frontal lobe of their brain isn't fully developed, because that is partly responsible. And so that is a philosophy, that's an ideology. Many people may not agree with that, but scientists, and that theory is now out there, and it's now widely accepted in academia. I don't know if that sometimes theories are developed to justify certain inactions or to cover. So, okay, but you guys can do the study yourself. And of course, or probably, I don't know, when that study came up, probably there was also this new law where it says that young people will stay on their parents' health insurance plan until they are 26. So I don't know if that particular new policy was benefited from the new theory of that says that when you're 26, that's when your frontal lobe of the brain is fully developed, and which is responsible for executive decision, and you can do that. I don't know if that theory was developed because, as I said to you, say for example, slavery, just when the transatlantic slavery started in the 1600s, late 1500s to the 1600s. At the same time, what was happening was the acceptance of, they found a theory that was developed in the middle part of the 1500s that became widely accepted as a theory in terms of race, as a biology. Race is a theory. It became accepted. Before, it was not accepted but it was just when they were they were about to start the transatlantic. They found this theory useful, to support. So so it's quite interesting. But whatever the case is, I want to talk about the erosion of childhood, social media, substance use, and the crisis in psychosocial development. And the point I was making is that it's very important for us to understand how people develop psychologically, socially, biologically, and parenting must also take into consideration psychosocial development, social development of children, childhood development, because it will also affect their parenting. And understanding of the development of children, the development of human beings is very important in terms of then the philosophy of parenting. And the philosophy of parenting is important for us to safeguard society. If parenting is bad, if we have bad parenting, then it's gonna the Bible. Okay, I'm gonna refer to the Bible, or to the scriptures. But all scriptures promote that. Train up a child in the way that he should go, so that when he's old, he will not depart. We talk about bad parenting and good parenting. And by training up a child, I'm not talking about beat them with a belt so that they accept your particular ideology, but especially respect and value for self and for others is very important. But you look at we look at negative parenting, and if you look at, even talk about I was doing some research among foster kids, and a lot of people in the foster care and so on are eventually become homeless, and many of them turn to drugs. And a lot of the Black and brown communities, Philadelphia and Jamaica, so on and so forth, a lot of these, you look at these young people and the parenting. A lot of people are pointing to parenting. So parenting is very important, and people must understand, parents must understand the significance of their role in safeguarding the future of a society, the significance of their role in prolonging society, the significance of their role in ensuring that life continues. That is why I say, for example, we talk about the abortion. Now I'm going to tell you I am against abortion. That's just me. I am not saying it to, I am not making this point because I want you guys to be for or against it, but I personally am against it. And the reason why I'm against abortion is because I cannot deny the arguments that I have developed against abortion. I cannot, except the only kind of abortion that probably I would consider is abortion that speaks to if the pregnancy threatens another life. That's the only way that if one life threatens another life. But if a life does not threaten another life, then we should not take the decision to destroy that life. So I'm against the kind of abortion I'm against. So I will, at one sense, I don't believe in a broad brush against abortion. And I'm not against abortion because of any theological, because of just, yes, because of theologically, but whether as a Christian or non-Christian, but I believe that we are all living human beings and we have a responsibility as ethical, moral beings to protect life. Life is about people. You know, life is precious and we do not, and life is a gift. And we are here outside of anything we have done. So I do not believe that we have a responsibility to deny or to destroy the process of life. Life is a process. So life is important and we are here because of life. And I believe the moment that life starts within the womb, the moment is life itself. So I said to you that once life has started, we should not destroy that life, because we have a responsibility as human beings to protect life, because we believe that life is important. We believe in the sanctity of life, and abortion destroys the sanctity or threatens and challenges the sanctity of life. So I believe that life is precious and it's outside of our will to destroy that life. So that's my argument. No, and I said to you, life is not just, we talk about raising the child, the village rages, we have, the state has laws that talked about caring for the child, so on and so forth, how you reprimand the child, how you discipline the child. Children are important because the children, they become the future. They take and they continue with. So life is important and it has a starting point. And so just as we have laws that says, the Bible says thou shalt not kill, yes, and we have laws that says, when we study ethics, higher order ethics is that the right to life. The right to life. And so now some persons who are for abortion are making it out to be a right, a human right, in terms of the rights of the woman to make a decision. But I say to you, abortion, the decision to take a child, to kill the fetus or whatever, has nothing to do to the decision to make abortion illegal has nothing to do with taking away the rights of a woman. It has everything to do with how higher order ethics. The higher order ethics is the right to life. We have a responsibility to protect life. Higher order ethics. Okay, and in fact, anything any behavior or action that threatens that higher order ethics, that ethical duty, that responsibility that we have to put anything that challenges, we are against that. We should call it evil, it's sin, whatever the case might be. So it's, I'm not going to make it into a political issue, but I'm making it in, I am having a philosophical conversation about and it's an ethical issue. Now, for some people justify that some people say, no, it had nothing to do with ethics. It had nothing to do with life, or the sanctity of life, but that's an argument from convenience. Okay. What we have done is that we have justified our actions by making the issue a woman right. A woman, okay. So, for example, the argument is that a woman must be able to do whatever she wants to do with her body. Of course, a woman, okay, but you cannot kill yourself, okay, because it threatens the ethics, the higher order ethics, life. And society, as a society, we have a responsibility to protect and to preserve life because we have a responsibility to ensure the progression of life. Killing self threatens the progression of life. Okay, so therefore, just as though it is okay just as though we are okay with the idea of having a law against that protects life, the human life, killing self. Okay. We said that fetus is also, okay, there is human life, but there's animal life, there's bird life, but the fetus is a life as well, because it's part of the progression of life. And we have a responsibility to protect that life. And so therefore, so part of my argument is that if we, as a society, there are some, we can do with our bodies whatever we want to do with it. However, as a society, we have a responsibility to protect, to preserve, and to ensure the progression of life. So if we have that responsibility, and if life has a starting point somewhere outside of us, in other words, okay, the way we didn't create life. Life is created. And so we see a lot, and so fetus is in terms of human life, starts with the fetus in the womb. So as a society, we have a responsibility to protect and to preserve that life. We have that responsibility to preserve and to protect that life. It's not just the woman's right to ensure the progression of life. So there are some things where laws imposes on one's right because it is an ethical and a moral issue based in the sanctity or the ethics and the responsibility we have to protect, to preserve, and to ensure the progression of life. Okay, so, and if that is, and so therefore my conclusion is that and that's why I've concluded that abortion is, abortion is wrong. Okay, abortion should be made illegal, so long as it does not threaten another life. Okay, because it is our ethical responsibility to preserve and protect any life. So that's the point I wanted to make. So whatever the case is, and I said to you, part of that is also as in terms of preserving life, it goes to the point of parenting. The progression of life, the preservation of life is threatened by how parents are parenting and what they expose their children to. And it is our responsibility to ensure that we understand the psychosocial development of children so that, because it will help us to preserve and to protect life. And so what I've said is that in a rapidly evolving digital landscape, the traditional framework for children's psychosocial development is being eroded. The slow, deliberate exposure to stimuli that once characterized childhood has been replaced by a world where social media reigns supreme. Parental guidance is often lacking, and tolerance for potentially harmful behaviors, such as marijuana use, is on the rise in terms of exposing children and when children start. Some people, I'm hearing they start at 10, 9, 8, okay? Or they are within an environment that is rife with marijuana use. And then, by the way, by the time the child is 11, 12, they are exposed to that, and it's become a normal part of their everyday experiences that they are using it. And now we talk about, by the way, when you start to study the biology of marijuana, it is addictive, and it can also affect your mood, and it helps to create it makes you very aggressive and angry, especially if you are not constantly having a dose of it. So we talk about, and many of these kids don't have the kind of funding or the funds in order to, so therefore we talk about mental health. Many young people today we've never had to deal with so many mental health issues, and we have a mental health crisis among our young people, whether through social media, whether through bad parenting, or whether through substance abuse. And when you go to, by the time you get to the 20s, by the time 18, 19, 20, 21, they're dealing with mental health, or many young people the rise in erratic behaviors, violent behaviors, aggressive tendencies. Of course, it's not just an economic issue. When we talk about relative deprivation is an economic theory that says societies that have high levels of income inequality and poverty usually have high crime and violence. But there's also the use of opioids, the use of among our young people, and how it becoming, it's, so of course we have to have this kind of discussion, what happens in and how it's destroying, how societies are being destroyed today in America or in the world. What's happening in Jamaica and the Caribbean is in terms of the erosion of childhood. Are we seeing the same kind of thing in terms of social media, substance use, and the crisis in psychosocial development, and so on and so forth? So this is very important. So anyway, I won't continue here. I'm going to stop here because I think it's 5:48, and I'm supposed to be having Father Iverson Joseph, who is here. Father Iverson, welcome to the class, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
I am well, thank you. I am well. Hold on, let me turn my on.
Yes, welcome to Caribbean Thought, Father Iverson. I see you are looking like our guest. That's great. And I hope I didn't get you at a very busy time, because I know on Fridays you're very busy.
Yes, in fact I arrived maybe half an hour ago. So when you asked me to come on, 15 minutes later, that was the blessing. So I had to pretty much get a chance to.
I figured that it's going to be a blessing. Yes. I'm happy that Father Iverson is here. Father Iverson is a lecturer, scholar, academic, theologian. He is an Episcopal priest, as I said earlier, and we have become very good friends. We've done several podcast episodes together talking about what's going on in Haiti and the challenge of Haiti. And we're happy to have him back because we want to know what's going on in Haiti, because recently we talked about the Haitian crisis, and we know that part of the problem was that the Haitians want that more Haitian-led solution. Many of them were opposed to an installed Prime Minister, Dr. Ariel Henry, who is no longer the Prime Minister, I believe. I mean, first of all, he went to Kenya, Nairobi, to sign a treaty, which I was able to get that information from Father Iverson. The next thing you know, he was exiled. And but we want to know what has happened. So since then, we understand that he resigned. But lately we understand that there was some kind of talks between the U.S., Jamaica, and Haiti, and a group of trying to terms of have an interim leadership. But we heard I heard on the news that that's collapsing. So I want to hear what's going on since the prison break and all that. But before you go, but we're gonna have you. I want to hear you talk about that, but I don't know. But for probably the first 20, 30 minutes, and the next thing we want to end on, the last 30 minutes, is we want to touch on the idea of what's going on in terms of what is faith and traditions in Haiti, because one of the things that we were talking about is we want to explore the changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean belief and tradition in Jamaica and the Caribbean. And we know in Jamaica, one of the things that the Jamaican government, they've announced that they're exploring legalizing obia. Many people are against that, the church especially, in terms of what pertains in Haiti, with voodoo and so on and so forth. And of course, we are conducting research study on valuing African identity through religious affirmations and Afro-Caribbean beliefs and traditions. And so we're examining and exploring the changing attitudes towards Afro beliefs and traditions, African beliefs and traditions. So in Jamaica and by extension the Caribbean. So the study aims to shed light on the impact of socio-political factors, religion, education, pop culture, travel experience, and exposure on the evolving perceptions of Caribbean peoples, both in the Caribbean and in the US. And so the findings will contribute to a deeper understanding of how societal changes influence cultural attitudes, promoting inclusivity, tolerance, and cultural heritage preservation. And ultimately, the research aims to encourage a more informed and respectful dialogue surrounding Afro-Caribbean beliefs and tradition in Jamaica. So I'm happy that my good friend and brother is here so he can help to talk a little bit about religious traditions in Haiti. But first, what's going on in Haiti today? And what's the latest so far? Welcome to the class, guys. Father Hivison, and join us is Alisa, Gavion, Chanel, Alan, and Feldman.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the quick introduction, Pastor McKenzie, my good friend, and in the Lord, in academia, and all, and whatnot. So it's a pleasure to be with you today and to talk about those two, topics that are kind of tangential. I mean, but I would like Pastor McKenzie to keep me on track, because I can put it can be easily, we can erode it from one to the other ones and stuff like that. But we are going to talk about, give you an update about Haiti. Well, now I think we left off on the prime minister that was installed. That was never elected. He was never elected. Do you know that in Haiti, the system, we have the Republican system from France. He's not supposed to be there, but the United States and what we call a core group issued a tweet that put him in place after the assassination of the last elected president, Jovenel Moïse. Now, he got himself into a predicament because he wanted for Kenya, he had asked for the international community to allow Kenya to come and help the country that is now overrun by gang. So, but that was being challenged by the Supreme Court of Kenya. Now, they said that because for this to happen, the two countries supposed to have a bilateral, treaties for Kenyan police or Kenyan military to go and help. But such treaties never existed between Haiti and Kenya. Such accords never existed. So he had to go there and sign one in order to get the force to leave Kenya to come to Haiti. And while he was over there, they shut the door on him. The police, the gang, they all tell him that he's not coming back. So he was deferred to Puerto Rico. I think that they wanted to go to Dominican Republic, so he's in Puerto Rico now. So what is happening now? The country, nobody's running the country. They have what we call a council of ministers, of secretary of states. They are the one who assemble and make decisions by consensus. But himself, he has not technically resigned yet. he said that once they put a government in place, it's a mess, because now he cannot enter into the country, but he's not stepping down. He said that now I will step down as soon as we have a college, presidential college, like meaning that like a consensus, like a government with different representatives from different sectors of the nations, to have a college of presidential college, and then those people can go ahead and do away with governing the country. So now he did say that it just because he knew Haiti, we don't have a culture of working together. I don't know why, but I'm not blaming it on slavery or anything. But we don't have a culture of working, of a political, like, the political elite, they don't work together. It's me and myself or nobody else. Or what, they don't share power well in Haiti. So I don't know if it is like maybe a kind of like black people mentality, a kind of like issue. I don't know, but we don't share power well in Haiti. So now he said they're gonna have a presidential college that of 7 members that represented the most influential political parties of Haiti. The left, the center, the right, and whatnot. So they took the most influential political parties, and like they sent one representative. So they build what we call like the presidential college, and then they supposed among themselves to elect a president among them. So this has been done for a week since he was stuck in Puerto Rico. So that has not happened yet, and nobody knows when will that happen. So in the meantime, the country is he's still the prime minister because he has not resigned. The gang is still making the law. The gangs now, I heard over that last weekend, they went into the National Library. They vandalized that and then loot everything. And they went to the National Museum of Haiti. They went in there and then took away like a lot of artworks and stuff like that. And so the gang. So in the meantime, they just impose their law on the populations. They overrun the country. The Port-au-Prince, which is the largest city in the capital, 80% of Port-au-Prince has been won by gang. So now nobody knows what's gonna happen next or what they're gonna be doing next. So that's the situations. And I think that the gang they try 2 times.
Let me ask the question.
2 times.
So, let me ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, who is governing? So you said that there was a council that was in place?
They put a council together, but the council hasn't been invested. So for it to have the power, we have like an official newspaper, which we call which is the official kind of like the official the state official the nation official journal that publish anything that is official in the country. So if anything has to happen, they have to publish it in this to make it official. So this council of presidential college has not been invested nor published. So they are there. So they're supposed to be working and coming with a roadmap, how they're gonna lead the country for the next 18 months and to do elections. They hasn't been able to do that, and they're supposed to elect one of them to be president. That hasn't been done yet. So nobody knows the country who is running the country now.
But is that constitutional for them to have a council and elect a president like that? Is that how it works?
No, it's not constitutional. What happened is very unconstitutional. The Constitution says that if there is like a vacancy of the president, the vice president is supposed to be taking the lead. If the vice president, like the prime minister that we call it, if he's not available, they go to the Supreme Court and take the chairman of the Supreme Court, like, you know. Or if he doesn't want it, or if he's not able to do it, they take the oldest member of the Supreme Court. So that's what the Constitution recognizes. But now the country is split. They want this solution of presidential college or council come from the international community. But Haiti wants to go through the Constitution to go to the Supreme Court, but the international community doesn't want the Supreme Court. So now, since they are the one that make the rule, that move the pounds on the board, so what they say, that's what's gonna happen. So now that's what we have. These guys now.
Wait. Okay, this is interesting, because I thought that everything was moving in the right direction. They did not want an installed prime minister because, of course, Haitians have a lot of pride, being the first freed country, and so he hasn't stepped down because
that was derailed.
I mean, this is quite interesting.
That was derailed.
How is I mean, Dr. Ariel Henry is one man who is installed. But he said he won't resign until he gets what he wants, which is to do something unconstitutional. To do something unconstitutional. He wants something, okay, while gangs continue to take over and chaos and crisis in the country because the people do not want Ariel. They do not want a presidential college. In other words, they don't want any external plan or strategy that deviates from their constitution, which is what you just told me, that if there is no president, no vice president, then we look to leadership to the Supreme Court until one has been identified, which is not on the table. And so as a result, why is it that the international community and everyone can't see what's happening and do what the Constitution already have a plan which they're not following?
Yes.
But yes. So why people are attacking the gangs for taking over the country? But the gangs, part of the problem is that the gangs are acting out what the people are feeling, in a sense. Well, this is interesting.
The gangs,
yes.
Yeah, it's Haiti is almost like it's a chessboard. It's a chess. If you know how to play chess, you know, it's a chess playing board. But what is happening now? Now, since you have college student, like university student, is listening.
And guys,
so it's good.
You guys can, if you have any questions, then let's see your faces. Yes, sorry about that. This is deep. Go ahead, sir. I apologize.
Yeah. Yes. So we can understand, kind of like go deeper behind from what we see, say, to identify what's the real problems. So one thing that one thing that I really like about what you're doing is that what we are saying here, you will not hear it in the news. So you will never hear this in the news. The news are manipulated. The news are distorted. The news are, taking side. It depends who you are listening to, or which radio and which stations, and who's giving it. So now we're talking about like objective voice of what is really happening. So one thing that what I can say is that the core group, which is wanting Haiti since I don't know how long, it is the embassy of all 6 Western, powerful nations: France, Germany, Canada, United States, and I think who else in there? There's like 5 or 6 nations.
Brazil.
Yeah, But yeah, I think they kick Brazil out, but that's it. France,
Okay.
France, Canada, US, France, Canada, US, Germany. I think there was one other one, but one of the powerful nations that keep that their hand, that kind of like crushing Haiti. So now what happened is this is what happened. I will give you, so this can resonate, go beyond the walls of the classroom, so people can hear that. Ariel Henry is a puppet, so they placed him there to do the bindings. So whatever they wanna do, he does it for them. They pull the string, and then Ariel dances. So now, if they let Haiti go toward the constitution, lean toward constitution to get one of the Supreme Court judges, they may end up having someone that will stand up to them. They don't want that. So they may end up having someone that's gonna go against their interests. They may end up having someone that rebels against them. So they don't want to take the risk of going there, because once they say that you're gonna pick this one doesn't want it, that can derail and find into someone, a leftist person. They don't want anybody from the left. They don't want anybody from the left. So they may end up having someone that is a popular, kind of like person and stuff like that. So they don't want that. And that's why they on a show to manipulate things, to keep things like under the grips, so that like whoever is ruling Haiti, they know who that is, and they won't have any problem with that person doing the biddings.
Wow. Well, tell you what, this is important. Go live. We are going live on Facebook because I believe that people have a responsibility to hear what you're saying, and we will go live in 5 seconds. I believe that people have a responsibility to hear what you're saying, and we will go live in 5 seconds. We're going live, guys, on Facebook. We are live. We are live on Facebook now, and we are at the Caribbean. This is the Caribbean Thought at the Jamaica Theological Seminary, and we have Father Hyvis Joseph, who is an Episcopal priest, lecturer, professor, an academic, and who has insider information about Haiti. And this is a very important. We started a petition at the last Caribbean Thought class, advocating for a Haitian-led solution. And if people want to sign the petition, you can go to the NeoLiberal.com and sign the petition. If you're in the US, you can go to the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, the IJDH.org. They have a petition advocating for a Haitian-led solution. I did not realize, I thought that Ariel Henry had resigned and we are moving towards a Haitian-led solution. But today, we are hearing that Haiti does not have a Haitian-led solution, and there is no plan for a Haitian-led solution, because although Ariel Henry, the installed prime minister, announced that he is going to resign and he is exiled in Puerto Rico now. Where is he now? So you're on mute. Where is he now?
He's in Puerto Rico. Yes, he's in Puerto Rico.
So Ariel Henry is in Puerto Rico, and he's asking for an international council. I thought that a council was in place. A council is not in place. And earlier I asked you, is that constitutional? And I said to you, why aren't they following the Constitution of Haiti? And can you tell me again, what is the Constitution of Haiti as it relates to the succession of presidency or leadership? What is supposed to happen in Haiti? And you're saying that it is not happening, and that is why we have the gang taking over, because for some reason the international community and those who are controlling Haiti refuse to follow the Haitian people will to follow the Constitution. So tell us, please. Let's talk about that again. Yes. And Alicia had a question, but tell us that. Yes.
Well, I mean, that was that was my analysis of my personal analysis of the situation going as a Haitian, and that's been following the political landscape of Haiti for quite a while. So they wouldn't follow the Constitution, first of all, because Haiti is under the grip of the core group. We have what we call the core group. I think that was built, maybe, I don't know what year, I don't wanna mistaken, but that was since after Aristide, like the priest was president like a long time ago, like, maybe 1991 and 2000, we returned 2004. So that's a long time ago. But now the core group is of the 5 most powerful nations in the Western world.
Yes.
They put their head together. They call them the Friends of Haiti. But I will say that the devil that is killing Haiti, the devil that is trying to destroy Haiti, I call them myself, because they have no plans that has to do with the development of Haiti or the prosperity of Haiti. So what they do, I think that they split the nation's management on that. Canada is responsible for security. France is responsible for, I don't know, United States is supposed to be helping the police. I think that secret, I mean, they split like it's a piece of steak, like everybody get a share. So every single country is responsible for a specific sector of Haiti. So that's now. If you have a chance, Pastor McKenzie, you can go ahead and read that. It should be if you type core group of Haiti, in Haiti, they should have the chart, the constitution that says which nation is responsible or what in Haiti. So now they don't want to follow the constitution of Haiti that says that if there is presidential vacancy, you have to go if there is not a prime minister in place. If the prime minister is unavailable, you go to the Supreme Court, and then to get the president of the Supreme Court right off the bat that he was the next person in line to be leading the country in case the president or vice president are not available. There are vacancies for these people. And then in case the president of the Supreme Court does not want it or is not available for some reason, don't want it, do you go for the oldest member of the Supreme Court, so that at least you've had somebody to take over and then do election, I think in 18 months or something like that, in a year or 18 months to do elections. So that's what the Constitution says, that Articles 194 or 90 or 94, something like that. So that's what the Constitution says. But these guys, they say that, well, the situation has been so dire, so we're not going to go to the Supreme Court because we don't have any elected official in Haiti at that time. There is no elected official in Haiti. All the institutions are being destroyed. So they never had election to renew or any elected official. So there is no mayor, there is no Senate, there is no, there is none of these. So they said that the situation is too dire, so they're going to have a presidential council college. So they sent like every political party that is the most influential political party, going to send a representative, and then they will build a presidential college. So now it was supposed to be 9 members, but it's 7. So it's 7 members now. And then among themselves, they're gonna elect a president of the council, and that's gonna be the president of the nation as well. And then he will choose a prime minister, and then there we go, and then they can go ahead and have a roadmap for elections. So that's what's supposed to have happened since Ariel Henry got stuck 3 weeks ago in Puerto Rico. But now he himself, while he's in exile, he's the one that's gonna give legitimacy to that college, because he said that he's not resigning. He will pass on the power to this college as when they are constituted. But again, this is a trick, because everybody knows those guys gonna be fighting till next year. They will never. Everybody wanna be president of the thing. So that's where that things get a little mushy, murky, because they will not agree among themselves to fight the president, because among the 7, everybody will want to be the president. So Ariel Henry is waiting for them to say who is the president. So since last week, they were saying that they have a name. That names never come out. So, and then they keep having bickering and a lot of things going on. So until now, nothing ever come out of this. Now, everybody's asking questions. The populations, most of the sector of Haiti, they disagree with that. But those who agree with it, they send their representative because they are hungry for power. But most of the population, they disapprove that 7-member council to lead the nations, because it's gonna be 7 millionaire in about like 6 months. They're gonna like everybody says that 7 millionaire, like they can get in poor, and in 7 months they're all gonna be millionaire. So that's why people are afraid that they're gonna have that. So they said we rather have one person from the Supreme Court. At least they're not gonna take so much from the country to suck the treasure dry. So we don't want to go beyond 1 or 2 persons. So that's why they say the Haitian people against the 7-member council. So that's where we are now.
So Ariel Henry, who is the installed prime minister, who is exiled in Puerto Rico, it said he won't resign or step down, although he's exiled, unless they have a 7-member council who will elect the president and a prime minister.
That's right.
But of course, that is unconstitutional, and
it is unconstitutional.
Haitians are opposed to that, and because what the Haitians are for is that we follow the Constitution that says they elect, that they choose they choose from the Supreme Court. Now, is the Supreme Court active right now?
Well, the Supreme Court, I think that Jovenel Moïse, like the last president who got assassinated, he was supposed to nominate like some judges to the Supreme Court for the Senate to ratify, like to censor them and stuff like that, to sanction them and stuff. But that never happened. So Ariel, who was illegitimate, he's the one who I think appointed, I don't know, a few judges, but people say the judges are not constitutional. So this is a mess. So these judges were appointed by Ariel Henry because the Constitution said a president you cannot be prime minister to appoint judges to the Supreme Court. It is only the job that is defined it's supposed to be carried out by the president. So Ariel Henry did that. So those guys are there, but people are kind of like protesting them, saying that they were irregular because they were never been appointed by a president. It was a prime minister. They were never ratified by the Senate, by the Senate, by Congress. So again, they are there. But from what I heard is that they found like one of the oldest judge, met Camille Lebrun, I think. And everybody said he is credible. So I think this is the one that they're gonna push forward, since everybody trusts him. See if they will accept him. But one thing I will say, even though that they do those maneuvers to see if they can run Haiti their own ways, Haitians are not easy to lead. So this is, once they say no, They will not gonna go. It will not gonna go. They're gonna protest and take the street. That's not. They will do that, but they will try to do it. But they're gonna make sure that that's not gonna go anywhere. So that Haiti, they will not. Now it's impossible to take the street because you don't know if the gang is against them or is for them, and with the police. So now, but I know for sure, once they realize that that's gonna happen, that they're gonna take the street and make sure that they get this dissolved. But that's what how I know Haiti is. So
yeah. So Alicia, you have a question.
Well, I did have a question, but you actually answered it, Father Hamilton. So that's a
yes.
It was answered already.
Any question from the class so far? Any questions? Anything you want to know? I have a question, but any question? Let me see if you guys have any questions. Any questions? I have a question. So you said that the oldest judge is the only. You said that so they want the Constitution. The Constitution allows for the Supreme Court, somebody from the Supreme Court to to occupy the space of leading the country while they try to find a president and so on. But the judges are all appointed by an installed prime minister who was appointed by the external group of foreigners, a core group. So the only legitimate judge, then there's the oldest judge though. There's one. What's the name of that judge that you said?
I think Camille Lebrun. They call it like Camille Lebrun. Last name is Lebrun, Lebrun. Last name Lebrun.
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 Okay.
Yeah,
oh,
Lebrun.
So that's the only, and he was appointed by the prime minister. I mean, sorry, by
no. I think himself. He had been there. He wasn't. He's one of the oldest member of the Supreme Court. So he must have been in the bench for quite a while before all this thing happening. So he must have been there prior to Sweet Mickey. So he's been in the bench. He's been on the bench for quite a while. So he was not part of. He was not part of those appointed by Ariel.
I understand. So is he? Has there been any kind of, has there been a conversation or approach to this judge LeBron to see if he's willing to take up the take up the position?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people they rally behind him. I think he may accept the charge. They may accept the position, but there are a lot of death threats. A lot of because politics is dirty in Haiti. So while these guys they're trying to follow to circumvent the way of the Constitution to do their own things, backed by the international community. So when some other people who kind of wanted to stay with the constitutions, so they will see kind of they've been challenged by the other group too. I think from the last thing I heard, he's willing to take up that challenging task. But I think so far it's been really, really, really challenging in terms of it's like they have a string and two groups are pulling the strings. I don't know which way is gonna sway.
Oh wow! You say that there's a death threat from who? Had you gotten
death threat from people that they don't know. I heard a lot of people is threatening him to assassinate him or whatever. So
from the gangs? Is that the gangs?
I don't think it. I don't know if the gang ever. It might be a gang. It might be a gang because all the gangs have their own owners in Haiti. So that may be part of the other group. But so far, the presidential college hasn't made any significant gain of in their pursuits, and then the people of Haiti now they're trying to push for this now for Maître Lebrun from the Supreme Court. So we're just waiting to see as things continue to unfold to see which way things gonna go.
I have several questions in terms of you said the presidential college. So there is a presidential college right now.
Yes, it's not yet invested. So they have I think it's been put together. They have seven. It was like seven, 6 men, 1 woman. That lady, that sole women that was in there, she resigned because of threats, death threats. And then there was another young man in there. He resigned also. So they replaced them. So that college is still there. It's still there, but it has not been invested yet. But they wait until they choose a president among themselves to turn him into the president of the nations, and then which will choose a prime minister. I don't know if it is among themselves again, or you will get another prime minister from elsewhere. And that's why they're waiting to invest for Prime Minister Ariel Henry to turn power onto these people.
Okay, so so this is quite interesting. So right now, so gangs continue to rule Haiti, and even if they have a council, the Haitians are opposed to that, and however, but they're also opposed to the constitution having this other judge. Is that correct?
Yeah, the international community is not into this thing, this judge thing. No, they're not into that.
Okay, so the international community, they are opposed to Haiti following the constitution in terms of appointing this judge, but they are for a council that is appointed by somebody who they appointed, which is within their own interests.
Yes, wow. And then they get that done through CARICOM, which is a shame to CARICOM. It is a shame to CARICOM. I don't know if you guys know what CARICOM is. This is the Caribbean, entity that kind of like get themselves to regional organizations that kind of like political organizations that's there to help each other when there are needs. So the Caribbean community, they call it CARICOM. So CARICOM is being pushed by, so you see all these entities, they work under the umbrella of United Nations core groups. They are the one that manipulate things. Otherwise, CARICOM should know the Constitution of Haiti. What does it say with that situations? So they should know that, but they are the one that take that route with the international community.
Right, so CARICOM was established. CARICOM was established, which is the Caribbean community, and the secretary. And CARICOM was established.
I think the president democracy. Is Jamaican.
Yeah, sorry.
I think the president they switch, they alternate the terms. I think a Jamaican is the Jamaican president is the head of it now.
Okay, so
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think the prime minister. I think your prime minister is the one that is in charge. That is the president of it now. The prime minister, I think.
But wasn't there a meeting? Wasn't there a meeting between CARICOM and some group from Haitian core group? And
yes, that's what out of this group comes. Out of this group come out these things, this presidential college. That's where they took politicians from the major parties who are hungry for power anyways. So they all wanted to be president. They all wanted to take the head of the nations because they have money on it. He has money in it and stuff like that. So they took those guys. So those guys will never say no. So, but we do have some of them that says no. We do have some of those political parties. They say we're not doing this. This is unconstitutional, and they said we're not going there. We're not supporting this. We're not going to send any representative to this. So
you're saying that CARICOM right now is following a plan that their charter is against, because CARICOM is supposed to promote democracy, recognize sovereignty and democracy, and the role of the rule of law. Okay, but please remember the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, some time ago, a past Prime Minister of Jamaica said the law is not a shackle. The law is not, but that was not a peer. That was Prime Minister Percival James Patterson, who was the leader of the People's National Party. But today we have the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness. He's the Prime Minister of Jamaica. He heads the CARICOM, and you're telling me that he is supporting the plan by this core group which opposes CARICOM charter. And so that is why we start the petition. We started a petition for people on Facebook. We have a petition. We're asking people from the Caribbean community to sign the petition, asking or advocating for a Haitian-led solution. Haitians are prideful people, prideful.
Yes.
The first Black country to secure independence and to be free.
Yes.
And today their country is being driven by a core group of nations that is external and foreign to the Haitians, and they have installed a prime minister, much to the protestation of the Haitians. And that is part of the reason why we have the gangs that's running the country, because they are opposed to foreigners dictating things. And so I'm telling you, part of the problem, and for those of us who are watching on Facebook, this is a class. This is the Caribbean Thought. This is an academic class. So we are an academic class contending for academic issues, exploring critical issues. And one of the issues is Caribbean issues. One of what's going on and we're applying critical thinking to Caribbean thought, particularly Haiti and what's going on in Haiti. We talk about post-colonial. We talk about independence, colonization. Haiti is a serious issue. What's going on in Haiti can happen to any Caribbean country today.
Yeah, of course.
We have and CARICOM. And I don't know, I hope the Prime Minister or the people in Jamaica and the Caribbean sign it. But if you're in the US, the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti have a petition that you can sign, asking and advocating for a Haitian-led solution. The Haitians want, and of course, right now the Constitution is not being followed. Let me ask you: Is Kenya? They went to Dr. Ariel went to Kenya to ask to sign a treaty which officially engages Kenya or joins Kenya and Haiti into some kind of relations that allows them to send the troops. So what about the troops? That's
unconstitutional also.
Yeah,
that's very unconstitutional. Like the constitution does not allow a prime minister to engage the nation in anything like the like of what Ariel was doing. So he did go do that, but that was not constitutional. That was unconstitutional as well. So, but that was never happened. That wouldn't go anywhere because the Supreme Court of Kenya challenged this in all facets. So that never went anywhere. So now they desisted. So they said that they're not gonna go for that anymore. Especially now, since they're talking about like a presidential college and stuff like that. So we'll see. But what they, you know what they did. But I'm glad you brought this you brought that up. Is that when the CARICOM and there was a meeting, I think from the United Nations or OAS, I don't know. They were having a meeting not too long ago, where they did say someone who's going to be part of the college, they must be for Kenya to come. So they don't want to put anybody in this college that is against Kenya, that is against the force to come into the country. So they're already trying to set everything up in case, so that they can get their wheels, they can get their things going on. So they already put everything, their dominoes in line. So they said that prior to do that, if anybody going to be part of this college, presidential college, council, you have to be for Kenya to send group to Haiti. So all these guys, they agree for that. But those in Haiti, those other parties that says, no, we don't want Kenya to come in here. We can solve our problem. We need them to reinforce the police and then invest in the army and then to take care of the gang and stuff like that. We don't want another external force to come in. But this is what the world, the international community, they want a force to come into the nation. That's what they want to come.
Wow, this is quite powerful. This is quite interesting. So you're telling me, so I thought that wow, what's going on here? I thought that Haiti, I thought that they were for an intervention. At first, we thought that they were against an intervention force. Then
They
I
were
thought
against
that they were
Haiti is against interventions. I mean,
yeah,
if you go to
okay.
the core of the nation, they are against it.
So
But
Haiti, they said they don't want an intervention force, but
they
however,
don't.
but I thought that they relented and said, okay, fine, we would get an intervention force as long as the intervention force will help us to be able to do what we want to do in terms of follow the Constitution.
Mhm.
Is that the
Yeah.
case?
Well,
No.
at some point, I think this things get a bit shift a bit
Yeah.
because the gang. It sounds like the gang. The gang. It sounds like there is a certain coordination of the gang's activities.
Yeah.
The chaos they put in the country, it sounds like there was a certain correlation or coordinations. So Haiti at some point they said, you know what, things are so bad, we're gonna let those guys come in to give us to give us like a little area to breathe. But normally, if you kind of like do a survey, most Haiti do not want the interventions, but the people who are the popular, the mass wants it because they cannot do anything. They cannot. They're not able to go out, and they're not able to go do their little business and stuff like that. So they will take that. They will trade that off. At least they can have like a chance to go places and a chance to breathe. But nominally or normally they are against, like, you know, the foreign intervention. Well, I have can you hear me? Yeah, someone put in the chat that the gentleman, like, you know, that is very true. I think that I think that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, that must have been the previous term, because it was Haiti. I think like that was Haiti in Jovenel Moïse, who was in charge, the president of it when he was in power. And after that, I don't know who took it, but now that may be the president of Guyana, Prime Minister of Guyana, that is in charge, that is the chairperson of it. So, all right, guys, I think now I don't know if you guys gonna push this for a little further, but I think 6:30. But if I will be willing to return, if you have questions, you can prepare them and ask, and as this thing is unfolding, and then, you know, and as college students, really feel free to challenge anything that I've said. But the fact remains the fact. But if I have my personal thought to it, so feel free to challenge it, because this is the space. This is that's what you're supposed to be doing where you are. So you're not supposed to accept anything at face value. You can, you know, and I will be, you know, more than happy to return should Pastor McKenzie invite me again for another session on Haiti. As for the one in Bordeaux, that I think we're gonna have to postpone that, since I had planned to stay to 6:30 with you guys. So we will pick that up, you know, maybe next week or in a couple of weeks to continue that debate.
Powerful. Thank you so much. I know anybody had a burning question that they had for Father Hivison? Alicia, I know you had your hand up again, or you were just correcting us.
I was just going to mention the head of CARICOM thing. That's all.
All right, Dr. Ali from Guyana. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you. This was what. So final thing. So as of now, you said that there's pandemonium in the gangs continue to control. Is it the gangs in the police, or just the gangs?
Say it again.
Is it the gangs or the gangs in the police?
Oh, well, the police. No, I mean it's a very weird combination. So the police, there is like, in fact, there is like 3 police officers that the population just lynched because they were part of the gang. They were kind of like a co-op, like, a co-op, cop. That was like a bad, kind of like a bad cop. So the population lynched them because they are the one that kind of like went at night to clean the weapons and bring kind of ammunition to them and stuff like that, or tell them whenever the police is preparing something, a raid. So the police and the gang, I don't know how to say that, whether the entire police force, I should say, is trying to run the gang, kind of like to combat the gang, but there is a lot of police officers who are gang members, who are kind of like affiliated with the gang. So it's a sad situation.
What about military? Military? What about the military? Because I know you said that there's a small military presence.
The military was okay. Yeah, the military is a very interesting thing. The military was disbanded in 1994, or no, in 2004 when Harrison returned, and then United States says Haiti will not have army no more. It's gonna be a police force. Okay, and then they put like an embargo, an arms embargo upon Haiti. But now Jovenel Moïse started an embryo of the army. We have an army of 1,500 people, 1,500 soldiers. So this is very ill-equipped. So since the United States is not, if those guys are not for something, it's not gonna go anywhere. So this police force is just there. Sometimes they call upon them to kind of back up, to back the police like the army. But they're just 1,500. They're not a lot. But they are at the mercy of, I don't know, Ariel Henry. So they're not doing anything now because they cannot purchase ammunition or weapons for them because there is an embargo upon Haiti now because they're not supposed to sell guns to Haiti. Whereas all the gangs have gun as military weapons in their hands. Nobody knows how they get there, but this is what it is. I think that there was like
wow, there's no. So you have a military, but they're ill-equipped, and the U.S. won't send any weapons to help you.
The U.S. wouldn't let them sell any. The U.S. wouldn't sell any arms. We wanted to buy with our own money. They said no, and they said all the other country that could have sold weapons to us, they said no to them. So I think President Jovenel, before he was assassinated, he went to Turkey from Erdogan to buy some weapons, and then he purchased them. Erdogan sent them from like weapons from Turkish, like kind of like military weapons from Turkey. And then when the weapons arrive in Haiti, I think the American embassy, those are true. Those are true. I mean, I'm saying them. I'm saying them with my mouth because those are true, because the chief of the police at that time came to the radio and on social media and said that. So when the weapons arrive, American embassy called to say, no, those weapons not gonna go to the army. We disagree with that. And when they asked him, where are the weapons? He said, I left them. We left them to who? They said, I don't know. I left them when I resigned. So nobody knows where these weapons are. So I'm sure they're in the hand of the gang. So.
Wow, this is, we gotta have to do a fun. This is just, and guys, I talk about stability and instability. I don't know what, because Haiti would benefit from an army. They benefit from a police, and with who are equipped so that they can help to me. And right now, you're telling me that the US and the core group, they are against the very things that would help to create stability and move Haiti to prosperity. But instead, they opt to doing something where that creates more problem for Haitians, because Haitians are against.
Doesn't it make sense? It makes sense. Wow. It makes sense. Why would they want Why would they want peace? And then they will equip your military. Military will restore order. If the police is equipped, if the military is equipped, they can restore order. Don't that make sense to you that they wouldn't want that? They rather want a foreign force,
yes,
like the UN, and they come and go to the beach every day. They pay them like outrage amount of money. They go to the beach every day, and then people are being dead in front of them. They never say anything. They say, "Well, we don't come for that." So that's what they want to do. Like like the UN has done before, bring cholera, bring a lot of diseases, but don't do anything. That the situation always stay the same. So that's what they want to do. They want to just divert from a real solution for the problems, so that we keep turning around like a vicious circle on the same problem. So that's why they don't want they disagree to have like a military, to equip the military, to equip the police, to solve, to have a Haitian-led solution. They're not for that. So that should make sense to you.
yeah. Well, thank you. And we won't hold you anymore. There's so much to talk about, but thank you so much. Who wants to do the
All right,
vote
guys, it was my
wait,
pleasure.
vote of somebody. One of the members of the class will do a vote of thanks. Anybody wants to do a vote of who wants to do the vote of thanks? Who wants to do that? Anybody from the class wants to lead the vote of Alyssa? Since you have been most vocal, could you do the vote of thanks? Yes.
Okay, no problem. Father Hyvenson, on behalf of the Caribbean Thought class at Jamaica Theological Seminary in the year 2024, we'd like to thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule to come and share with us. It was very, very enlightening. There are a lot of shockers coming out of what you said, and you are very right that a lot of it would not be shared in the media. So thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing with us. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we do hope that you'll be able to come and share with us again, because this really does feel like a very incomplete conversation, but still very fruitful.
There's so much to talk about. Yes, I want to talk about what finance like. Or I mean, what's happening in the country in terms of are people going to the stores, are people working, are people getting paid, what is going on, how are people living and surviving?
Yes.
Wow.
It's hard. Yes, that would be interesting, but it is. You can imagine. All right, thank you so much.
We'll do a part two.
We'll have you back. You very much.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys. Yeah, man. Thank you, Father Hyvenson. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Guys, yeah, man. Thank you. What a powerful presentation from Father Hyvenson. Wow. I'm so happy that we did that that lecture earlier. I talked about unfair competition and the immigration issue. Remember, we talked about and the strategy behind, and we talked about neoliberal globalization. It's quite powerful. And I said that Haitians are opposed. Haitians have a lot of pride. They want freedom. They want the independence. They want the ability to carve out their own future. They want to be able to lead their own independence. They want the democracy that they fought for so bravely and beat out the France. They have a police force. They have an army. They need the equipment. The core group are opposed to giving them the equipment. But yes, they want to be able to, they need the equipment and the resources to fight the gangs. Just as though, they're sending equipment to Israel and there's to fight the Palestinians. Wow. Okay, and they're sending equipment to Russia, to Ukraine. Or they're thinking about that. And we said that Haiti is right next door. And we said, what? They are going out of their way to get a foreign troops to send to Haiti, when the Haitians are saying, we have police, we have army, give us the equipment. Or if you're going to send the troops, send them, so that to ensure that our police and army can do the work, and not only that the Constitution is followed. What's the Constitution? Not for them to have an installed prime minister, not for the installed prime minister to appoint judges and to appoint the installed prime minister that's appointed by foreigners, by the US and Canada and so on. Okay, they were for them to follow the Constitution that says, and the oldest member of the oldest member of the U.S. of their Supreme Court, to occupy the position until they can have elections and elect a prime minister and so on and so forth. And so right now however, but we are seeing, but when you look at what's going on, you talk about, it's as if the plan is for Haiti to continue to remain weak, unstable. You know, outsiders are determining the fate of this country, and CARICOM, which is established to observe and to preserve democracy and sovereignty. They are doing the exact opposite of their institution and their charter and everything. And we as Caribbean people, what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing? And that is why I say it's important for us to have the conversation. What are Caribbean people doing? What are academics doing? What is the church doing in the Caribbean? What are we doing to advocate for the Haitians in this regard? First, we have to understand what they're saying. Amongst the noise and so on, there is a unity in their demand. There's a unity in their protest. First of all, let's start with this. Haitians have pride, being the first free black, the first successful slavery vote. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, don't believe the lie that Haiti colonized Dominican Republic. They did not colonize Dominican Republic. That is all. Haitians are always being demonized. Yes, Alyssa.
Sir, I was just going to ask, because I agree with what you've said. And so I wanted to know because I know that Haiti has been said to be one of the wealthiest or the wealthiest Caribbean country in terms of its resources.
Yes,
so I would really like to know if it is that all of the natural resources have not been exhausted. Because I'm wondering if that is the reason why there seems to be a vendetta against this country. Because it in terms of one of the final things that you had mentioned about outsiders pulling strings, and then when you even consider the reports in terms of how their former president was assassinated and the involvement of persons from other countries, it's like, what is going on? And then and I have a hard time with the fact that this country could have come together so beautifully and fought for their freedom, and yet they have a hard time standing together to defend themselves. Because even I'm not sure if it was mentioned at the beginning of the class, but a news item that I think came out either this week or late last week is the fact that Canada has deployed troops to Jamaica to teach Jamaicans and equip Jamaicans to help in the Haitian situation. That's a news item now. And I'm just like, what? It's very like, what is going on?
Wow. Canada sent,
So
what? Wait, so is it that Jamaica is planning to send troops to Haiti?
Right. So that's the plan. I'm going to pull it up again. That came out either this week or late last week. So
let me say this. Hey, let me tell you, and I'm on Facebook for deliberately. And I believe in education is important, and of course there are people who I believe in making popular the monopoly. This class is important. Okay, I'm giving free information. This is this. In order for society to get better, we have to have the kind of conversation. People have to know what's going on in society. People have to know the truth. Jamaicans have to know what's going on in society. Okay, so that we can hold our government accountable. I mean, CARICOM, what it is that the Haitians want? How can Jamaica be sending or thinking about sending a troop? Why can't CARICOM give the why can't we get a group of, why can't we train the Haitians and give them the equipment to fight the gangs? That is what they want. Well, let's start from there. Instead of training instead of foreigners training other foreigners to go to Haiti, let's start by providing equipment and resources to the police and the army so that they can fight. Okay, so that they can fight the gangs, and also to ensure the rule of law and the Constitution is followed. And let's start with that, because Let us start with Ariel Henry. He's an installed prime minister, and every decision that he makes is unconstitutional. And CARICOM cannot be a party to that. I mean, I'm telling you, this is interesting. We're going to end class in about 5 minutes. In fact, we will have to end class. We're going to end class earlier than, because I didn't take any break. We started and we went full force. And then, but what a powerful class, guys. This is powerful. Thank you guys so much for joining the class. Next week, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to talk about voodoo, and we're going to talk about Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And people, if you guys are on Facebook, this is powerful. We've always been talking about Haiti. We have a petition advocating for a Haitian-led solution, which I wasn't promoting it as much because of what was happening, but I didn't realize that there is still a need. There's still a desire for a Haitian-led solution, because that's not what's happening. So go to the NeoLiberal.com. You can sign the petition if you go to the NeoLiberal.com, TheNeoliberal.com. Go to petition and causes. Click on the Bob Marley picture. It's that way. No, sorry, that is not the Bob Marley picture. Sorry. No, there's somewhere where we're doing a petition for Haiti. Now, that's for people who are in the Caribbean or from the Caribbean diaspora, Jamaica, so on. But if you're in the US or a US national, you can also participate in the petition asking for a Haitian-led solution by going to https IJDH.org. IJDH, the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti, which is an American organization run by Brian Concanen, who was an international human rights advocate and attorney who we've interviewed. He's been to the class to talk about what's going on in Haiti. There is still a need for a Haitian-led solution that recognizes Haitian democracy and constitution. CARICOM is built for that. What is going on? And what's going on with the US? I'm an American, and I have a responsibility to hold the US government responsible. I want to know what my government is doing in the world, to creating problems in other parts of the world. Because, okay, they are my brothers, they are my sisters. You are my brother, you are my sister. I have a responsibility. But what's going on? What's the policy towards Haiti, the American policy? It's draconian, okay? And it is antithetical to what the Haitian people are calling for. I'm very passionate about the class today and about what's going on in Haiti. And we spend much time in this class talking about Haiti, because what the conversation about Haiti is a case study about what's about when you start to study post-colonialism or what post-independent, what's going post-independent Caribbean, what's going on with the countries in the Caribbean since independence, since they got independence and freedom, what's going on, okay? And what's affecting their path to prosperity. The unfair competitive natures that of the world today, which it's not in it's interesting. We're gonna stop here. That's it, guys. Thank you, guys. If you have any further questions, you can email me. You can please post and blog about it, write about it. Go participate in the petition that we have. Next week we're going to talk about. We continue now. We switch back to looking at Afro-Caribbean beliefs, looking at Obia, because say for example Obia, the Jamaican government did an amazing thing, announced the legalization of Obia, but many church people are against that. Okay, yet we know Obia is a tradition or a practice that's practiced by who? Revivalists. But so we are willing to discriminate based on our inherited colonial past against a tradition that we have been misinformed about. We're going to talk about Obia, what it is really, okay? And we'll talk some more about this. Thank you, guys. And I actually wrote an article which I submitted to the Gleaner, and which I started talking about. I guess I'm gonna end the class by sharing an article I submitted to the Jamaican Gleaner, and I hope they publish it because I want all Jamaica to hear this. It says, the edited Sir Madame, re-exploring changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs and tradition in Jamaica. I'm conducting a research study on valuing African identity through religious affirmations of Afro-Caribbean beliefs and traditions by examining and exploring the changing attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs and traditions in Jamaica, and by extension the Caribbean. The study aims to shed light on the impact of socio-political factors, religion, education, pop culture, travel experiences, and exposure on the evolving perceptions of Jamaica. Now, the findings will continue to a deeper understanding of how societal changes influence cultural attitudes, promoting inclusivity, tolerance, and cultural heritage, preservation, and so on. Ultimately, this research aims to encourage a more informed and respectful dialogue surrounding Afro-Caribbean beliefs in Jamaican society, and by extension, the Caribbean. Now, and the diaspora in the US or all over the Americas. Now, in Jamaica, there has historically been a negative perception towards African and indigenous spiritual practices, religious beliefs, customs, and faiths that draw influences from urban Indian heritage or African traditions, Rastafari. So we're talking about Rastafarianism, Obia, Voodoo, Pocomania, or Poco Church. Revivalists and Muslim beliefs have often been marginalized, deemed as fringe, demonic, and unpopular, juxtaposed against the inherited traditions from European colonialism. Now, the Judeo-Christian faith, such as Roman Catholicism, Protestantism, and evangelicalism, have been favored or has been favored and considered closer to the truth and the ideal. However, in the 21st century, with increased exposure, awareness, critical thinking, and a more liberal lifestyle, in a sense, some people would say, particularly among the younger generation, it is crucial to investigate whether attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs are changing. Now, the study aims to explore the shifting attitudes of Jamaicans and the factors contributing to the changes, considering demographic variables such as location, age group, educational levels, income status, political affiliation, denominationality, and religious beliefs. Now, while updating the research and reviewing the responses, I came across an article in the Jamaica Gleaner, which was the letter of the day that confirms the initial assessment about the study we are conducting, and it highlights why this study is important as a class exploring attitudes toward Afro-Caribbean beliefs. Now, we asserted that in Jamaica, in the study, we had asserted that in Jamaica, there has always been a negative attitude towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. We have made that assertion, and the assertion is a fact, because over a year ago, the Jamaica Labour Party government announced it would open discussions to have the 122-year-old Obia Act repealed. When the announcement was made, many Jamaicans and church groups rallied together to fight the motion. Their main argument was that Obia is inherently evil. And of course, you can see the Jamaica Letter of the Day article dated November 27, 2020, called Obia is not evil, it is spiritual healing. Now, Caribbean unity, and of course, next week we're going to continue the conversation. I would talk some more about this. I've done a lecture in the past, should culture transcend, should theology transcend culture, which put this into perspective. But Caribbean unity and Black and brown people's unity threatens the status quo, or those who are privileged. When I talk about the status quo, what pertains today as privilege, those who, okay. So the plan was and is always to implement strategies that create this unity. And I define the dominant class as those who are part of the status quo, which we talk about in neoliberal globalization reconsidered. We'll talk about that, the financiers, so on and so forth. We'll explore that some more later. So the plan was and is always to implement strategies that create this unity, such as rejecting and diluting their language as Creole, religion, faith, practices as evil for a Eurocentric one. The very same thing that the church is saying is that has been ingrained in us. Hence, we want to rediscover our unity. We want to discover, because you see what is going on here. The church is against the legalization of that, calling it evil. That threatens unity, because there are those in Jamaica that practice it, the revivalist traditions, and there are others who practice that tradition, not to conduct evil, but for healing and for other things. There are people who would say, who would wish people bad in Jesus' name. Does that make Jesus or the religion bad? No, there are those who use it for bad. Now, the Caribbean unity. So I said to you, Caribbean unity and Black and brown people's unity threatens the status quo. So the plan was and is always to implement strategies that create this unity. Hence, we want to rediscover our unity by revisiting our history and the changing attitudes toward Afro-Caribbean beliefs and traditions in Jamaica and the Americas. How did we get here? The fact that the Jamaican government announced announcement to open discussions on legalizing obeah created such backlash from some, particularly the Catholic, Protestant, Evangelical, and Protestant churches, is an indication of what continues to drive this unity among our people. Obeah is a practice that is found even within some Jamaican faith traditions, such as revivalists. The very idea that the church openly disagreed with the move by the Jamaican government to have a national discussion on the issue, calling it evil, is an indication of the divide and the discrimination within our system, driven by an inherited colonial past that we are yet to get beyond. Hence, this study and the Jamaican government's plan to discuss the issue and about repealing it is timely and welcomed, or are timely and welcomed, as we can dispel or move to dispel some of the misinformation and encourage diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Only then will we realize true independence, unity, and prosperity. Okay. Now the study, if you can go to ResearchGate, Renaldo McKenzie, to participate in the study and learn more. You can go to we can go to the NeoLiberal.com too, and where the study is also available. Where I have links to the study, so on and so forth. And but thank you guys so much. Or you can email us at renaldo.mckenzie@jts.edu.jm. Okay, and that's it for class today. For people who are on Facebook who are joining us, thank you so much. This was Caribbean Thought Lecture 10. Thank you guys so much. And we are contending for Caribbean issues, critical issues, and this is a very important class. So thank you guys for joining the class. I'm going to stop